Is up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Hope everybody's having a good day. I thought this was the best way to share this audio. I had mentioned on Twitter, I think on Friday, I guess it was Friday, that Elliotte Friedman on the 32 Thoughts podcast provided some pretty good insight and clarity on the Flyers and the Johnny Gaudreau situation. And since I can't figure out a way to upload that much audio to stream onto Twitter, I figured the best way to do it was a live stream. So I'm just going to play this and then we'll end this broadcast. But this is Elliotte Friedman from Sportsnet and 32 Thoughts. And on the 32 Thoughts podcast, which came out Friday, this is Elliotte Friedman on the Flyers and the Johnny Gaudreau situation and how it played out and the things that he has heard. So everybody enjoy your weekend. Here you go. Here's for each.
So this is what I think happened. He wanted to go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia was his number one choice. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Once Calgary was done, he wanted to go to Philly. I was chicken-hearted twice in this, okay? Mm-hmm. Amal, if you want to put like chicken sounds in this podcast, there's 2 times you can put it in. Number one was I had people telling me that Philly was never going to be in this. And I refused to say that. I was too chicken to say that because I just thought it's Philly. And at the end of the day, they'll do something and be in this. And they just never were. And I think a couple of things happened. I think there were people in Philly who wanted Gaudreau and liked the idea of Gaudreau coming in there and energizing the market and selling tickets and everything. And I do think that was discussed. However, there was also a debate in Philly about we were 40 points out of the playoffs. Does Johnny Gaudreau alone, taking all of our cap room, solve that problem? Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two, I think the Ryan Ellis situation really made them think, if we don't have Ryan Ellis, we have to find defensemen. And they made a business decision that there were other things they had to do. And look, I know the Flyers fans out there are really unhappy. They don't agree with the moves. I'm not debating that one way or the other right now. But what I am thinking is I think the Flyers felt that other moves on the blue line up front were better use of their resources than one big run at Johnny Gaudreau. The future will judge that. I think the Flyers feel that John Tortorella can make a difference. The players will have a fresh start under him, and they think it'll be overall better. And I think they just decided they have to plug a couple of different holes as opposed to one big free agent. And 82 games from now, we're going to have our answer on that.
I think what a lot of Flyers fans, at least the ones that I've heard from, and I got a couple of friends of mine that are diehards, dyed-in-the-wool orange fans here, keep coming back to was that press conference with Scott and Fletcher, where there was the reference to the open checkbook and there was, the references to needing more skill on this team, and none of that seemed to come to fruition on free agent day. I'm not going to go as far as to say, I think the Flyers may have wanted a redo on that press conference, but it did set a certain expectation for Flyers fans. I think it's reasonable to say that. I think Flyers fans went into this offseason saying, okay, so we now have this organization committed to doing X. How come we got Y instead?
I understand all that. I think there were a couple of things. Number one, I think the Ellis uncertainty, I think that is a huge factor.
I agree.
I really do think the Ellis uncertainty is a huge factor. I think Philly had a lot of their guys on the market. And because of how bad their year was last year, I think they were dealing a lot of them from a position of weakness. Like, for example, if they would have traded, I'm picking a couple guys here, like a Konechny or a Provorov. Mm-hmm. This is not the time to trade guys like that and expect the best return. And I think they just said it doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you the other thing too. In Provorov's case in particular, one of the things I'd heard was that they really felt that they wanted to see him under a new coach. They just wanted to see it, to see how it would go. The other thing too is to move Van Riemsdyk, they were being asked for a 2023 first. Now, they got a first from Florida in 2024. People, I heard, didn't want that. They wanted next year's first. Jeff, you're the draft guy.
That's Bedard. No, that's Bedard year.
And
that's yeah, like you can protect them. We know how draft picks get protected all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This year's draft is, and we talked about this all season long. This year's draft was good. Next year's draft, you have a shot at a franchise player. A couple of them, actually. A couple of them.
I think Philly looked at the whole picture, the Ellis injury or Ellis situation, what the market was to trade some of their guys, and they were undervalued because it was a bad year, and they knew Philly might be desperate, and what it would cost to trade Van Riemsdyk. And they just said, we don't like this picture. All of this to get Johnny Gaudreau. It's nothing against Gaudreau, but I think they said, look, we were 40 points out of the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
The overall picture doesn't make sense for us. And I think that's the decision they made. Fletcher's taking an avalanche of criticism. We'll see where this goes, but I think they are really hoping that Tortorella can light a fire under a few guys and they can create an atmosphere where some of them will bounce back. And I still don't know what they're going to do, but I think they felt that one Gaudreau wasn't the right move for them right now.
All right, there you go. There's Friedge talking about his understanding of how things played out. So I thought that was the best way for me to get everybody the audio. Check out 32 Thoughts, the podcast. It's a great one. And they did their season end special, School's Out episode, and a lot of great information in there. Obviously, not only on just the Flyers and the Johnny Gaudreau situation, but around the NHL. So great stuff from Friedge. And, I had to go back and listen to it a couple of times to try and really decipher all the elements of that. And the biggest takeaway for me is that the price for JVR's contract became a 2023 first-round pick. And there's a tipping point. And I know I couldn't go there. Everybody knows that I was in the camp of, you got to be careful here. This is a 29-year-old winger. And like Friedge said, they were 40 points out of a playoff spot. Is this the right move at the right time with having to give up a 2023 first-round pick to move that money? 1 year left on a contract to move that money. No, it wasn't. You can question the other moves. And so much of this, as Friedge said, was predicated on Ryan Ellis. And that's unfortunate, but it's true that Ryan Ellis and this injury not only haunted the Flyers last year to the tune where he played only 4 games, but it also is now haunting them in the offseason because it affects how they move forward. It's crazy. It's crazy. Brian Addard says, Jason, isn't it fair to say that their misplaced aggression last offseason, Ellis and Risto, cost them Johnny Gaudreau now? I think the Ellis move was the right move, but the guy suffered an injury that he's never suffered before, a core injury that led to seemingly more core injuries. And everybody knows that I think maybe you can look at Ristolainen and say he should have been traded at the deadline. Maybe he could have got a first-round pick in this year's draft for him. That's fair, and not extended him. And if you wanted to extend him, you could have extended him at this trade deadline or this free agency period. Could have offered him another contract. But I don't know that last year's aggression was what cost them this year. I look at that kind of compartmentalized, a little bit separated. So, but the Ryan Ellis situation is real. And, you look at the D'Angelo contract and you go, okay, well, if Ellis isn't available, he's got to play top pairing, and he's not a top pairing right side defenseman. And he's more of a second pairing. And if he's a second pairing, he's being paid that way, but you have Ristolainen there. So if you move him up to the top pair, he's not a top pairing defenseman. Brian says, Jason, I'm more upset that they gave Nick Delorier a 4-year contract with a modified no trade clause what sense does that make? 4 years. I question the term too. Totally agree. I don't know why you have to give him 4 years. I know Chuck Fletcher said there was an aggressive market for Nick Deslauriers. If that's the case, and I got to go to 4 years, then I got to walk away. I got to find a different solution. But and the modified no trade clause, I believe he can be traded to 20 teams. So there's probably just a little bit of protection there to not go to some Canadian teams or certain markets. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean I'm with you, Brian. That's a bit of a head scratcher for me too. I mean, I think I texted a few people after that deal came out and said, I'm fine with the signing 2 years for a Nick Deslauriers, but why 4 years for a 31-year-old player? And, I can find players that can bring what he brings. Maybe he'll come here and that toughness that he brings and his ability to kill penalties will be better than we thought. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this was something that John Tortorella wanted. I don't know. I don't know the information on that yet. But 4 years, yes, Brian, you're not wrong. All right, I'm going to get back to my weekend. Just want to bring everybody that audio. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. Go back and listen to it again. I had to go back and listen to it a couple times just to kind of get all the nuggets that were in there to try and figure out, how this played out. And like I said before, I got caught up in the Gaudreau hype as well. As somebody that was not really for signing Johnny Gaudreau at this time, I got caught up in it too, where I was like, it would be fun to watch him every night. It'd be fun to see a player like that right now. Is that the right thing to do, roster building wise? Look, in some of the rebuild people, there's elements of rebuild and there's elements of aggressive retool. That's the confusing part. And that's, I think, the frustrating part for a lot of people. But we'll see what it looks like on the ice. And if it doesn't look good on the ice, then maybe you are in that Bedard sweepstakes. And Bedard's not Shane Wright or you're off Slafkovsky. Bedard's a whole different animal. Bedard's McDavid. That's what Bedard is. All right, everybody, enjoy your weekend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time. See ya.